Earlier I spoke to Assistant Minister for Women Amanda Stoker and asked whether just one instance of harassment is all it could take for someone to be dismissed.
One of the observations that was made by Commissioner Jenkins in the Respect at Work report is that there were inconsistent definitions of what constitutes sexual harassment across all the different places in legislation that it arises. The most commonly used definition at the moment says that ordinarily it's a pattern of behaviour involving more than one incident, but one serious incident can be sufficient. The process of implementing the recommendations as we've responded to them will involve nailing down a consistent definition across all of the places that it's used in Commonwealth law so that people don't face that confusion into the future.
Okay, so stepping through that and how you're sort of imagining it might work, if someone's repeatedly asking out a colleague, unwanted advance if you like, and that's repetition of behaviour, could that qualify in that definition?
Potentially, yes. If it's repeated unwanted advances and they've got a sexual character to them, then it could. I'm reluctant to speculate though. The reality is that every situation turns on its facts and the dynamics of that workplace and the dynamics of the individuals involved. One of the things we are doing though, as part of the acceptance of the Commissioner's recommendations, is providing a single point of contact where employees can get clear and consistent guidance for the experiences they're having in a factual sense, and employers can get clear and consistent information about what they need to do the right thing. And that's something that's been missing from the landscape at present. When an employer at the moment tries to do the right thing, they usually get an unhelpful answer like, you need to go and get your own legal advice. And that doesn't always give people what they need to be able to create the right environment. It's really important that we give employers the tools they need to be able to build a culture where people understand there are consequences for engaging in sexual harassment, and they are backed in a sense, by the government to do the right thing. So
there are a few recommendations that have been noted by the government, including the positive duty to eliminate sex discrimination, harassment, victimisation. It's listed here that the government doesn't want to create further complexity. It sounds like wriggle room to not go ahead with this.
Well, I don't think that's a fair characterisation. What we observed in the Commissioner's report was that there was a lot she had to say about the fact that there was inconsistency and duplication and confusion in the law that applies in this area. So what we've decided is the best way to achieve the object that the Commissioner set out to achieve, but in a way that reduces complexity, is to focus on the workplace health and safety duties that already exist. It's already the case that an employer needs to do all reasonable and practical things to create a safe workplace environment.
Right, but the report says with the process in place at the moment, change is needed, right? Because this is still endemic, in the report's words.
Yeah, so if you let me finish, the way that we're going to bolster that is to make sure that employers understand, and whether that's by amendment or whether that's by guidance or both, we will make sure that it is abundantly clear, both in law and in practice, that the duty to keep your employees safe does and must include action on sexual harassment.
A lot of talk about the gender pay gap and claims the PM wasn't across it, if you like. So what is the government's plan? What do you think? Is it about closing the gender pay gap altogether, getting to zero, and when, if so?
Look, I think the government's got a good record at the outset on this. If we look at 2018, when the Gillard government was running the show, the gender pay gap was pushing 18%. And we are now at a point where it's a little under 14%. That reflects the government's good work to improve women's workplace participation, to make sure that they are getting into more jobs and better jobs. And it also reflects the efforts that are being made to ensure that both parents, male or female, are contributing to the long-term input that's necessary to raise children.
Do you have any sort of set target on the gender pay gap or not?
We haven't set a date by which the gap needs to be closed, only because I don't think that reflects the reality. Say it again, sorry.
But are you saying that, you know, there's some debate around whether there will always be some element of a gender pay gap with more women taking a pause in their careers for children? Are you saying you do want to get it to zero or near enough to?
Look, I think we accept that there's more to do. There's more to do to make sure that gap is as closed as it can be. But rather than simply focusing on this statistic, I prefer to approach it this way. Are we giving all women a genuine choice to do what they want to do with their lives? And if a woman wants to have a career path in which no door is closed to her and that she can reach the highest heights of her career and of leadership, she should have that absolutely open to her. But equally, we shouldn't devalue the contribution that is made by those people, male or female, who decide to spend time at home to care for children. That is an enormous contribution to our society and one that we all benefit from. So I think framing it more in terms of broader choice is a better and more constructive kind of measure than saying the only answer here is zero by X date. The way Menzies framed it is this: you would think it absurd, and it is absurd, to deny a woman an opportunity on the basis of her sex. But equally, it is an absurdity to confer an advantage because of it, simply on that basis as well. And that's what we should be working towards: genuine equality of opportunity, so that people can pursue whatever their version of the perfect life is, in fairness.